Britain is being swamped by a new kind of offender, and the state is determined to catch them. But they're not the people you might expect, the muggers, the thieves, or the drug dealers.
So who are these new offenders they're so busy hunting down? I'm going to show you.
These are the people they're really after, people who drive.
The person behind me is making rude signs and getting very irritated.
People who go shopping.
I'm an environmental warden, and that's actually an offence.
People who aren't doing any harm at all.
My crime was not putting a bottle of Ajax in a locked metal cabinet.
Over the next 30 minutes, I'll show you how law-abiding people are being turned into criminals.
Every day, there are millions of people who are breaking laws and regulations left, right and centre, probably because they don't even know they exist.
The authorities are now penalising everyday activities. These are some of the new offenders where I live, the same kind of offenders you'll find near you. There's one, there's another, and that one's my wife. We're at my daughter's school in North London. Parents are parking on a single yellow line for 5 minutes so they can take their children through the gate. There used to be free parking here until the council replaced it with residence parking and yellow lines. Of course, it is healthier for children to be made to walk to school, but life's not that simple.
Sometimes you have children at different schools, or you have an appointment straight afterwards. In an ideal world, nobody wants to drive to school. They all want their children to get fresh air, but sometimes to get them to school on time, it's the only way.
How many of you have actually been ticketed while you're out here?
Yeah,
Me, twice.
Twice? Show of hands, please. Yeah.
But actually I didn't get the ticket, that's my problem, is that they said that I've got the ticket, but in fact they never attached it to the windscreen.
There's a warden at the end of the road, there he is, going through the cars now.
This lady's just had a ticket.
Tell us about it. You've just been...
Just a second.
Yeah.
So,
How much is that going to cost you?
£50 for the first, as long as you pay within 14 days.
And here he comes, he's coming up the streets. Yeah. I mean, can you afford that? It's £50 a time.
Well, no, I can't afford it. And they target us. They're actually waiting for us when we go into the school.
That was actually how I got my ticket here, because they all turned up in a van, jumped out, ticketed all the cars one after the other on the single yellow line and got back in and drove away.
What was so upsetting about that was you had a whole collection of responsible, sensible, law-abiding people going about their daily lives. They haven't got any choice but to park here. There's nowhere else to go, and yet the state is determined to make them feel like criminals and charge them fortunes. It's sickening, actually. It shouldn't happen.
The local council is responsible for parking controls. The man in charge is Steve Hitchens.
We don't ticket around schools in the time when they're collecting or delivering children. I've never had a complaint about that happening, and we have a clear ruling that shouldn't happen.
We have footage of them doing this.
Okay, well, we'll sort it out.
And furthermore, it happens all the time, every day.
Well,
and you haven't been trying to enforce this very hard, have you?
Well, I will only enforce when people tell me that something is happening.
The mums I spoke to said that they had made endless calls to the council. We also spoke to 17 other Islington primary schools, all of whom said parents were ticketed as they picked up their children. This doesn't make life wretched just for hard-pressed mums. Parking enforcement is killing the local businesses.
We've had funerals with sort of 4 or 5 cars with flowers on outside the church, and they've tried doing every single vehicle. And the family actually come out and run the warden up the road.
Down this road, shops are being driven to the wall. Many will close down over the coming months.
It has now affected business by 35%.
I reckon there's a good third of it gone down. We've lost all our morning trade.
We're at least 50% down. It's what we used to take.
Since enforcement cameras were installed here a year ago, stopping to shop or even to unload deliveries means a fine of £100.
This is the evil thing. It moves around, does it?
Yeah, it does, all the way.
360 degrees, up, down, tilt, pan, the whole works.
So one of your customers draws up for about half a minute, basically, to nip in.
Yeah, it'll be on.
It'll be on him.
It'll be on him.
These shopkeepers are being ruined by ruthless parking laws. In sharp contrast, law enforcement is lacking when it comes to protecting them from genuine criminals.
We had somebody on drugs who came in and caused some damage. We know who it is, we have its address, but can't really give it to the police because I'll be done under the Data Protection Act. A couple of times we have actually videoed people shoplifting, given the details to the police, and nothing's come of it.
The real criminals often get off much more lightly than minor offenders. You can go into any of these shops around here, steal up to £150 worth of goods, and supposing the police actually take an interest, you'll end up with an £80 fine and no formal criminal record for a first offence. Alternatively, you can actually park your car, go in, buy some stuff, come out, and you'll end up with a £100 fine with no realistic appeal. If this only happened where I lived, I'd move. But the war on motorists is being waged on a national scale. Ever since local authorities were handed the power to enforce parking and keep the proceeds, the number of parking tickets has doubled. In the year up to April 2003, over 7 million parking tickets were issued across Britain, raking in 280 million for local authorities.
What's clearly happened is that many local authorities and some other public authorities have discovered that parking enforcement and other kinds of fines related to car use can be a good way of making significant sums of money. And inevitably they've started to pay by results, and by doing that given enormous incentives to collect as much money as possible.
How much money do you make a year out of car parking tickets?
We don't make any money out of car parking tickets. There was a surplus on the account of around about 5 million last year, which went directly into providing other services.
So you make 5 million a year out of parking?
There's a 5 million surplus. It's a subsidy to the council taxpayer.
Local authorities are making a fortune out of harassing ordinary citizens. Their powers are growing greater all the time. And from this year, it's not just how you park, it's how you drive as well. The new Traffic Management Act lists no fewer than 21 offences which local authorities can now enforce. Ignore signs like these and you face a fine of £100. This is already happening in London, but wherever you live, you won't escape for long. That's on top of the £100 fine you get if you drive in a bus lane. Policing by camera has already started in the capital, raking in £30 million from bus lane penalties alone.
The overwhelming majority of law-abiding car users, the beauty is that the car is easily identified, tracked back to them, and they can be fined. And therefore, for the public authorities, it's actually rather good to target them. You can do it with technology, with cameras, all sorts of wizardry. It's easy.
No one disputes the need to keep buses moving, but in practice the new rules make driving a nightmare.
Here we have a bus lane. It seems to say, it says that I can go into it. Only between 4 and 7 in the afternoon can't one go into it. I'm driving nice and legally along this bus lane. And suddenly, I'm having to swerve out of it, because suddenly it's illegal to go down it from 7 to 7 in the afternoon. They suddenly, without any warning, change the instruction. I can't be focusing on reading these quite small signs on bus lanes at the same time as observing road safety. It's sort of reckless.
And I narrowly escaped a £100 fine for what would have been a simple mistake. The explosion in impossible rules and ruthless enforcement catches out the most minor offenders and not the people who cause real problems to other road users. But this is not just about traffic. There are more and more laws affecting practically every area of our lives which criminalise soft targets up and down the country.
There are now so many laws and so many absurd, pettifogging individual rules, restrictions and regulations that there are millions of people hundreds of thousands of businesses who are going about their business every day, breaking laws probably without knowing it and without even knowing they exist. And yet there they are, they're probably at risk of being fined or punished in some way if any bureaucrat takes enough interest in them.
I've discovered that it's now illegal to rewire your home or replace a window without the active supervision of the local authority. You're not allowed to dispose of anything to do with work in a domestic dustbin. If you do, you can be heavily fined. You can't make a bonfire at home of any wood that has got a lick of paint. Disobey and you face another fine. This is madness, and it's turning the law into a joke.